They said it was punishment, a lesson I needed to learn for speaking too loud, walking too proud, laughing when I wasn't supposed to. So they sent me away. Told me I'd be staying with the Apache until I learned respect. But the truth is, they wanted me gone. Out of sight. Out of mind. A girl like me, with fire in her bones and questions on her tongue, didn't fit in our little dust-covered town. So they packed a bag I didn't get to choose and left me by the river at dawn. I watched the town disappear behind the dust trail, heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. I didn't cry. Not once. I told myself I was going to survive whatever they thought would break me. I didn't know then that surviving wouldn't be the hard part. What came next was stranger than anything I could have imagined. And it began the moment I stepped into Apache land. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the empty kind, but a living, breathing quiet that wrapped itself around everything. I waited by the rock like they told me. Hours passed. The sun rose higher. I felt its heat seep into my skin, burning away the fear. Finally, a figure appeared on the ridge. A man. Tall, proud, wrapped in soft leather and feathers that moved with the wind. He didn't speak, just looked at me with eyes like still water. Then he nodded once, and I followed. We didn't exchange words. Didn't need to. There was something in the way he walked, slow, steady, certain, that told me I was stepping into a world where everything I knew didn't matter. I kept my head up, matched his pace, and inside, I wondered what kind of punishment this really was. The camp was hidden in a grove of cottonwoods, the tents and shelters blending into the earth like they grew from it. Children watched me from behind skirts and trees. Women whispered to each other in words I didn't know. But no one laughed. No one pointed. They just saw me. Not the sheriff's daughter. Not the loud girl. Just me. The man who brought me there, Taji, I would learn later, took me to an elder. A woman with silver hair braided like river ropes, her face lined with stories. She touched my cheek, said something soft, then turned to Taji and nodded. That was it. No lectures, no scolding, just a place to sleep, food to eat, and eyes that watched without judging. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt curious. Days passed like dreams. I helped with what I could, gathering firewood, fetching water, learning how to listen to the land. The girls taught me how to braid herbs into ropes, how to find the sweetest berries, how to walk without snapping a twig. And slowly, the weight I'd been carrying melted away. No one asked why I was there. They didn't care what crime I was supposed to have committed. Here, you were what you did, not what people said about you. I started smiling again, laughing. Not the forced kind I used to give at church dinners, but real, belly-deep laughter that made the other girls laugh too. I was starting to belong. And with each passing day, the camp stopped feeling like exile. It started feeling like home. One night, as the stars poured down like silver rain, the drums started. Not loud. Just a soft, steady rhythm that called your bones to attention. I followed the sound to the center of the camp, where a fire crackled like it knew ancient secrets. People gathered, their faces glowing orange in the flickering light. A ceremony was about to begin. I stood at the edge, unsure if I was allowed. But the elder woman waved me over. She pointed to a spot beside her. I sat, heart racing. What was happening? Why did it feel like something deep was about to change? My hands trembled as the firelight danced in my eyes. The ceremony was for a girl, younger than me. It was her coming of age. She wore a dress of white buckskin, her hair braided with beads that clinked softly when she moved. The whole camp surrounded her, singing songs that sounded older than time. She didn't look nervous. She looked powerful, like a queen crowned in moonlight. I watched every step, every gesture, feeling like I was witnessing something sacred. something that had meaning, the kind of meaning I'd never been allowed to hold before. My chest swelled with admiration and longing. I wanted to be seen like that. Strong, proud, worthy. After the girl danced, the elder woman turned to me. She said something in Apache, then handed me a shawl. Red, soft, embroidered with symbols I didn't yet understand. She gestured for me to stand. My throat went dry. My hands trembled. But I stood. She draped the shawl over my shoulders, nodded once, and the drums began again. This time, for me. I could feel every eye on me, not judging, but welcoming. The rhythm of the drum echoed through my chest like a heartbeat. I stepped forward, uncertain, but somehow unafraid. I didn't know the steps. I didn't know the words. But my feet moved anyway. The beat guided me. The people clapped softly, encouraging. And in that moment, I wasn't a punishment. I wasn't a project. I was part of something bigger, something older. I danced until my legs ached, until my heart soared, until I forgot the sting of being cast away. When the music stopped, I was breathless, changed. The girls embraced me like a sister. The elder whispered something over my head, and I felt more seen in that moment than in all my years before. Taji found me afterward, sitting by the fire, staring at the stars. He sat beside me, silent. Then he reached into a pouch and pulled out a necklace. Simple. Leather cord. A stone at its center. He handed it to me. No explanation. I took it with both hands, holding it like it was glass. He nodded, then stood and walked away. I wore that necklace every day after. It wasn't just a gift. It was a symbol, a connection, a reminder that even in exile, I had found something precious. A home, a place, a story of my own. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every moment. The shawl, the song, the dance, the fire. It felt like a rebirth, like I'd been washed clean of the labels that clung to me back home. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but I knew this, whatever they meant to punish me for, had turned into the greatest gift of my life. I was no longer just a girl from town. I was someone new, and for the first time, I didn't feel lost. I felt found. The days grew longer, and I found myself waking with a new purpose. The camp wasn't just a place to survive anymore, it was a place to live. I learned how to gather the healing herbs, to read the whispers of the wind, and to respect the silence that held so many stories. The girls shared laughter and secrets, their hands guiding mine as we crafted beadwork that told our histories. Taji's presence was steady but distant, like a shadow that never left. I felt both invited and tested every day. And slowly, the fear that once burned in my chest cooled into a quiet strength. I wasn't just passing time, I was becoming part of something I never knew I needed. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of fire, I wandered to the edge of the camp where the elders sat in circle. They spoke in low tones, weaving tales older than the mountains. I didn't understand the words, but the way their voices rose and fell felt like a song meant just for me. Taji caught my eye and nodded, an invitation. I hesitated, then took a step forward. The elders welcomed me not as an outsider, but as someone searching. I sat beside them, letting their stories sink into my bones. For the first time, I felt the weight of history settle on my shoulders, not as a burden, but as a promise. That night, the stars blazed bright above the campfire. The women gathered around, and I was handed a small bundle wrapped in soft cloth. Inside was a dress, not just any dress, but one woven with meaning. Feathers from the hawk, beads from the river, and colors that spoke of dawn and dusk. They told me it was my turn to be seen, to step into a new role. I felt a tremble run through me, excitement mixed with fear. Could I carry this honor? Could I dance the dance that would change everything? As the fire crackled and the drums called, I knew I was ready to find out. The ceremony began in the fading light. I stood beneath the wide open sky, my new dress heavy with stories and prayers. The drumbeat pulsed through me, steady and relentless. Faces circled around, familiar and new, all watching, waiting. I moved awkwardly at first, unsure of the steps that felt like they belonged to another world. But then something shifted. The rhythm became my own heartbeat. The wind caught my hair, lifting it like a crown. I danced not for approval, but for myself. For the girl I'd become, not the one they wanted me to be. The night held its breath, and so did I. When the drums finally fell silent, a hush wrapped over the crowd. The elder woman stepped forward, placing a feather in my hair and a hand on my shoulder. Her eyes shone with something fierce, pride, perhaps, or recognition. I looked around and saw smiles that weren't pity, but respect. I realized then that I had crossed a threshold. No longer an exile or a punishment, but a woman shaped by fire, earth, and spirit. Taji's nod from across the circle was quiet but clear. I belonged here now. My story had changed. And so had I. The days after the ceremony were different. I woke with a confidence that surprised even me. The camp treated me with new eyes, as a leader, a keeper of stories, a bridge between worlds. I took on more responsibilities, teaching the younger girls the songs and dances I had learned. My hands, once restless, moved with purpose, weaving together threads of tradition and change. The land beneath my feet felt alive in ways I couldn't explain. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. And it was terrifying and beautiful. Yet, even in this newfound strength, there were moments of doubt. When the wind whispered secrets I couldn't understand, or when loneliness crept in during quiet nights. I missed the world I'd known, even as I embraced this one. Taji was there, a silent guardian, but I felt a distance between us, like two rivers running parallel but never touching. I wrote letters I never sent, words meant to explain the things I couldn't say aloud. In those moments, I remembered the girl who had arrived here afraid and angry, and I marveled at the woman she was becoming. One evening, as the camp settled under a blanket of stars, Taji approached me with something in his hands. It was a necklace, simple and elegant, with a stone that glowed softly in the firelight. "For strength," he said, his voice low and steady. I accepted it, feeling the weight not just on my neck, but in my heart. It was a gift, a promise that I was seen, understood, and not alone. I wore it every day after, a reminder that even in punishment, there could be grace. And even in exile, there could be home. Time passed, and seasons changed like pages in a book. I grew in ways I never imagined. The camp became a sanctuary, not just for me, but for others who had been lost or cast aside. I learned the songs that healed wounds, the dances that honored ancestors, and the quiet moments that spoke louder than words. My story was no longer about punishment. It was about transformation, about the power of belonging, and about the unexpected ways love can dress you like a queen, even when you least expect it. Now, as I look back on those days by the fire, I understand that the punishment was a beginning, a door opening to a life I never dared to dream. The man who dressed me didn't just give me clothes. He gave me a new skin, a new name, and a new story. And I carry that with me, always. So if you felt lost or punished, remember, sometimes the greatest gifts come disguised in the hardest moments. And sometimes, a stranger's kindness can change your life forever. The sun rose with a golden glow, spilling light over the camp like a blessing. I woke with a heart full of hope and uncertainty. The days ahead were uncharted territory, a life reshaped by ceremony and acceptance, but also filled with questions. What did my future hold? How would I fit into the stories yet to be written? Taji greeted me with a rare smile, his eyes softening in the morning light. For the first time, I saw not just a guide, but a man who believed in me. That belief was more powerful than any punishment, more healing than any word. I spent the morning helping prepare the camp for the harvest festival. Laughter echoed between the trees as we worked side by side, weaving baskets, picking ripe fruits, and sharing stories. The girls taught me songs I would carry forever, melodies that spoke of resilience, love, and the land that cradled us. I felt connected to something vast and enduring. The rhythm of life here was different, slower, but deeper. It pulled me away from the restless storm inside and planted my feet firmly on the earth beneath me. At midday, a group of hunters returned with game. The camp gathered to honor their success, offering thanks in a language I didn't fully understand but felt deeply. I watched as each person shared food and stories, weaving a tapestry of community and care. My role shifted again, from outsider to participant, from punishment to promise. I realized that belonging wasn't about erasing my past but embracing every scar and step that brought me here. This place was no longer a sentence, it was a sanctuary. That evening, as the camp settled around the fire, Taji and I shared a quiet moment. He told me about his own journey, the losses, the battles, the moments of doubt. For the first time, I saw his vulnerability beneath the strength. We weren't so different after all, two souls shaped by hardship but searching for light. Our conversation was a bridge, closing the distance that had long separated us. In that shared silence, I felt a kinship that would carry me through whatever came next. The harvest festival dawned bright and clear. The camp buzzed with energy, adorned with flowers and painted symbols of protection. I wore my shawl with pride, its red threads glowing in the sun. The dances began, each movement telling a story of survival and celebration. I joined in, my feet finding the rhythm that once felt foreign. The music wrapped around me like a second skin, carrying me into a place where fear dissolved and joy blossomed. The crowd's cheers were not just for me, but for the spirit of renewal we all shared. As night fell, the stars above seemed to shine just for us. The elders spoke of ancestors who walked these lands before us, their voices a whisper on the wind. I felt their presence, strong, watchful, and kind. The fire's warmth seeped into my bones, filling spaces I didn't know were empty. I understood then that my story was part of something greater, a thread in a vast, unfolding tapestry. The punishment that sent me here had become a blessing, a gift of belonging and purpose. In the days that followed, I took on new responsibilities. Teaching the younger girls the songs and stories, helping the elders prepare medicines, and learning the sacred arts passed down through generations. Each task deepened my connection to the land and the people who lived in harmony with it. I was no longer just a visitor or a punished girl. I was a keeper of traditions, a guardian of memories, and a bearer of hope. The necklace Taji gave me felt heavier now, not with weight, but with meaning. Yet life was never without challenge. Storms came, testing our resilience and unity. There were moments when old fears surfaced, threatening to pull me back into the shadows. But the camp stood strong, a family bound by trust and courage. I learned to face the storms not alone, but together. Each hardship became a lesson, each tear a seed for growth. And through it all, the man who once dressed me like a queen stood quietly beside me, a steady presence in the changing tides. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Taji took my hand. His grip was gentle but firm, a promise and a question all at once. We stood beneath the sky, the colors fading into twilight. Words were unnecessary. In that moment, I felt the fullness of my journey, the pain, the transformation, the unexpected grace. I knew that whatever came next, I was ready, dressed not just in clothes, but in strength, dignity, and the unbreakable spirit of the Apache land that had become my home. As the camp quieted and the stars blinked awake, I sat by the fire reflecting on everything that had led me here. What started as punishment became a story of survival, acceptance, and rebirth. The man who dressed me like a queen gave me more than garments. He gave me identity, belonging, and hope. If you're listening now, remember this. Sometimes the hardest journeys lead us to where we truly belong. And sometimes, the kindness of strangers can rewrite our entire story. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that will move you. Your journey might just start here.